Because I've developed a fairly sizable following over the last decade in YouTube and then in social media, I wind up getting a lot of comments that are essentially unsolicited advice. And so I'm shooting this Dr. Sadler responds video as a way of providing a sort of common answer to all of these instances, but also to help people, reflect on what they're doing as they're giving that advice. Is it a good idea? Is it a bad idea? Why is that the case? And so maybe, if I'm posting this as a response to you, you might want to watch on and think over the things that I have to say. Obviously, if you're just stumbling across this, it may not apply to you, but you could find it interesting anyway. So what are the things that people give me advice about? A good bit of it has to do with content that I'm producing and the ways in which it's being produced or how it's being done. And I want to put aside, the request for can you do content on this and this and this. I've already addressed that in another response video. So I don't mean those sort of questions or comments. Instead, I have in mind the sorts of things where people complain because I'm standing in front of the chalkboard and they can't see at any given point in time exactly what's on the chalkboard, or they're saying, I don't like the 45-second intro to your core concept videos, or the sound quality needs to get boosted, wear a mic, or things along those lines. Another kind of advice that I get quite a bit of, and this tends to be in social media, although I do get some of it on my videos if I talk about, related things, is within the realm of what you can call health and fitness, bodily. So, I get people telling me how I ought to exercise or what exercises I ought to be doing or not doing and what diet I should be taking or not taking and what supplements and all that sort of thing. Then the third thing would be mental health and relationships. People give me a good bit of advice about that sort of area of my life as well. So I'm going to talk about each of these three in turn. But first I want to sort of set out a general, you might call it dynamic, a set of thinking, things to think about, reflections. So you're giving me advice. Now ask yourself, do you actually know me? Do we have a relationship? If not, then how do you know that the advice that you're giving is actually on point? You might say, well, I represent a whole bunch of other people who think the same way. There's a lot of people who think that, but it's not usually the case. I mean, you'd have to do like a study in order to be able to back that up. And typically it tends to be more anecdotal and, a lot of confirmation bias sort of things doing that. You might be the only person complaining about something and wanting it changed. So, you probably would want to think about that first and, ask yourself, what are you actually trying to accomplish in giving advice? Is this a knee-jerk reaction? That's probably not a good way to live out your life in the digital landscape, just responding to things without even really thinking about it. That's poor impulse control. That's not a philosophical, rational life, which is really what my channel's about, isn't it? I'm a philosophy professor. I help people understand how to live a more rational, measured, proportional life using ancient and medieval and modern philosophy. So it'd be a little bit incongruous, wouldn't it? Are you in giving advice? Are you really being kind of passive aggressive or complaining about things? Are you trying to draw attention to yourself? Are you trying to make a name to boost your brand in some way? These are all things you probably want to think about. And at first, of course, nobody's going to say, yes, that's exactly what I'm doing. But, you think it through. It's kind of a strange thing to do, to give nearly absolute strangers advice. Maybe you do that in other places. Maybe you're the kind of person who on a train or airplane or, in an Uber or something just constantly provides other people advice. And, maybe that works for you. Maybe that doesn't. I don't know you. So I won't presume to give you advice about that other than to say that you should probably think about it. So let's talk about those three different main venues of advice giving that I tend to get. So the biggest thing is content, right? And videos are probably the largest thing because I've done so many of them. As a matter of fact, this is something you probably want to keep in mind. I've been creating video content on YouTube now for 9 years. I've been teaching in the classroom for 20 years. So I probably have some reason for why I do things the way I do. And I've developed a lot of good practices when it comes to it. There's a time thing involved in some of the advice. If you're commenting on a video from 2012 and saying that the lighting's not great or that the sound, needs to be improved and I should use a mic, you're commenting on a video from 2012. I got a mic. Matter of fact, here it is right here, and you can see it on more recent videos. So you commenting and saying on an older video that I should get a mic just kind of shows ignorance on your part and does not reflect well on you. Certainly doesn't make me want to interact with you on things or take advice from you. So advice needs to be really well grounded in research, or at least some minimal due diligence. But there's other things too. And here's where I invite you to think about why you would want to give the advice that you do. Let's take the 45-second intros to core concept videos. Now, some people will, once a month generally, somebody will chime in and say, you really should get rid of that. I've heard it so many times. Yeah, you've heard it so many times. You're not the only viewer. I get, about at least, 1,300 new subscribers each month. Presumably, they haven't seen all the videos that you've seen. Or if they have, certainly haven't gotten worked up about it and decided that it needs to, you have to have a different intro or something like that. There's a remedy for not wanting to watch that or listen to that 45 seconds. There's this cool feature in YouTube, both mobile and on the desktop, where you can move ahead in the video all by yourself. If that really bothers you, why not do that? Right? Take matters into your own hands. It's so easy to do. The same thing goes for being in front of my chalkboard. If you can't see exactly what's written on the board at point A, you can move ahead to another point in the video where I'm not standing in front of it. You don't have to make that into a comment that you want to have a conversation about. It's kind of a weird thing to do. And so there's other things that people complain about as well or give advice about, but I'm just going to put that aside, and I'm going to invite you to think about this interesting feature of modern life. So we have the internet, really great, isn't it, to have that, and mobile technology and all that. And then we have this portion of the internet that we call YouTube, and it's pretty vast, and there's a lot of great, cool stuff there. And then we have the portion that's my channel, and that's, devoted to helping people understand philosophy. My videos by design are a little bit longer, and I go more into depth, and I don't put a really high emphasis on high production or anything like that. It's not a glitzy channel, but the people who watch my channel think that it's, one of the better ones when it comes to actually presenting ideas correctly and sympathetically. So now think about the fact that you want things to be different than they are. First off, are you bankrolling the channel? You might, I'm watching it in the advertisement. No, your advertisement doesn't pay for anything. And YouTube serves ads whether I monetize videos or not. So put that aside, right? Does it really make sense for you to say to somebody who's providing quality content for free, you should be doing it differently? Why should I be doing it differently? Because you want me to do it differently? You may be the one person who's asking for that. Or maybe you represent 1,000 people. So what? There's 100,000 people who'd like to see it done the way that it's being done because they're watching it. And, you're also getting something for free. So it's a little bit, it's a little bit of a sign of ingratitude, or however you want to put it. Whatever motivation it's coming from, to be complaining about things and demanding that they be different because you want them to be done a different way. Now, if you want to commission me to do a video in a certain way, you can certainly do that. But that's an email to me. That's not a comment. That's you reaching out to me and me providing you with a price sheet or something like that. So these are all things to keep in mind. Let's talk now about health and fitness. So, I post things from me being at the gym and sometimes when I'm cooking or what we're doing and stuff like that. And I do get quite a few people who think that it's their business to tell me what sort of exercises I should or shouldn't be doing and what sort of diet I should be on and all that sort of stuff. And if you think about this, it's really kind of irrational to do that. To begin with, if you're not a dietitian or nutritionist or somebody who actually specializes in this stuff, why would I want to hear from you? Because you went on a diet and it worked for you, or your Aunt Belinda did, or something like that. That's purely anecdotal, right? Or because you're into certain kinds of exercise. I should be. I mean, people who are into CrossFit are kind of fanatics about that to the point that we make jokes about it, right? Just like the vegans as well, right? Vegan CrossFitter, and pick whoever else you want, walk into a bar, how do you know? They all tell you so. The thing is that they want everybody else to be doing that kind of exercise. But you ask yourself, why? We all have different bodies. This is part of why we go to professionals to help us, trainers. Trainers have different things for different people. If one trainer is giving everybody the same advice, that's a terrible trainer, and don't go to them because they don't know what they're doing. They're a hack. It's got to be tailored to the person, and it's got to be welcome to the person. If I'm not soliciting advice from you and I'm just saying, hey, did my workout today? Here's the playlist from my classic metal collection that I listened to, and here's a picture of me at the Wisconsin Athletic Club. I'm not inviting you to tell me why lifting free weights is better than doing machines, or why I should be doing kettlebells, or why I should be doing yoga, or any of that sort of stuff. It's not being asked of you and solicited. So you want to think to yourself, what am I getting out of this? Why am I pushing this particular program for somebody who I don't know? And in cases where it might actually be counterproductive for them to do what they're being advised to do by me, because I want to stick my nose in. We can say similar things about mental health and relationships, even more so, really, because we all have different bodies, and there are some things in common, like don't drink mercury. That's bad for everybody. But whether you do this regime or this regime or this regime, that really has to be tailored. Similar for mental health. Some people need medication, other people don't. Some people benefit from certain kinds of therapy, other people need other kinds of therapy. Sometimes it's difficult to find good therapists in the area that you want to do stuff on. You really shouldn't give people mental health advice unless you actually have some training in the area. And even then, you probably want to be kind of leery about going beyond generalizations. So, when I post, for example, videos in which I mention that I've struggled with depression and I found, certain areas of philosophy helpful with that, or, doing exercise has been helpful, or any of those sorts of things, I'm not looking for you to tell me what you think I ought to be doing. That's kind of silly, isn't it? You're not my therapist. And you don't actually know me, even though you may feel that you do from watching some videos. You don't know me well enough to be able to provide that sort of advice. And the same thing goes for, relationships, what I ought to do with my wife or my kids, or, job situation, or any of that sort of stuff. That's not really up to you unless you know me quite well. And if I want your advice, I'm already soliciting it on those matters. So I invite you to think about why you would think it's a good idea to give people unsolicited advice about these sorts of matters. What are you getting out of it? What is the payoff for you? I don't know what it is, because I don't know you. So, but that's the long and short of it. Those are the three main areas where people do it. This is one of those if the shoe fit, wears it sort of videos. So it may not apply to some of you, and some of you as you're watching it, if you've got to this point, you might say, oh yeah, I'm doing that. And again, I really invite you to use this as an opportunity for thinking about your own thought processes and your own assumptions and your choice to provide other people with unsolicited advice might be something good to look at and think about.